Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is me, Tsungai, Vogue. Thank you for watching. So let's talk about my spiritual journey. So in the year of 1987, the year that I was born, which is the best year, which is the future, I was born to my parents who were happily married. And to these people, they were Seventh-day Adventists. So I was raised in the Seventh-day Adventist church. However, for whatever reason, they didn't think that just the church attendance was good enough. They needed to be extreme. That's their choice. That's their preference. They need to suffer for salvation. It was something they felt that was their calling. As their children, we then became indoctrinated, and me, followed by my little brother and my little sister, we became indoctrinated in scriptures, in Ellen G. White's writings, and yeah, from a young age of 7, we started fasting, asking God to forgive us. Honey, I ain't sinned yet. I'll tell you where I am now with that, but so they became an extreme Adventist, and to the point where they would have deep discourses within the church, in that the church would find that my parents' behavior and the way they were raising us was extreme, so we became outcasts within the church. But then we can't leave, then we'll be separated from God's people, so therefore we had to stay in church, although we were not actively part of the church, but we were supposed to be better than the church and better than the people in the church and better than the pastors and whatever else, blah blah blah. Interesting. So that's the conversation. I'm gonna drink to that. So that was where it all started. We then start Bible studies. So this Bible study started when we were, before all of this, years before, where our parents were then kicked out of the main church because they were worshiping God on their knees instead of when they call for prayer and then people, let's stand and pray. They thought it was not good enough for the Almighty. You needed to be on your knees. So therefore, we were being trained and using scriptures, by the way, the scriptures support that you bow down and worship. So we had to bow down and worship like a Muslim, where you worship and so forth. And when you're talking to the Almighty, you can't talk to him standing. You have to bow down, we did so. The main church did not say that. They find that is disobedient to the church, not so much disobedient to God, but disobedient to the church. So therefore, it's causing problems in the discourse. So this whole journey began of us now reading Ellen G. White's writings, reading the Bible channeled to support Ellen G. White's writings. So therefore, I could not have my ears pierced. My ears were not pierced until later on in the years, and I can talk about that in another video. The piercings, you can ask me questions down below, and then I'll address them as titles and going forward. And also, I will be trying to get on TikTok about to discuss certain topics that cannot be in a video form, but I'll put them on there. So in saying that, this is where we were. We were Bible study groups and so forth. In the church, I was in a beautiful church in Newton, eventually. And in the church, although there was other children who didn't understand that, so bullying or intense behaviors started happening to the point where I felt lost. I wouldn't fit in. So mainly my experience, I can't talk about my brother, I cannot talk about my sister, because they formed better relationships with people than I did. So my friends in school, because they were not Adventists, or I was not influencing them to become Seventh-day Adventists. And I didn't feel that that was right. I never felt it was right then, so I would not do it then. I respected people's faith. I don't know where that came from. It is something built in me. It's built in by the Almighty. That's all I can say. I will never have you do something that I'm doing because I'm doing it. It's not been my nature, even with my siblings. My journey is mine and your journey is yours, and I will support you in that your journey. And then if I'm looking at something, I'm always looking at something like my spirit has got something, a wisdom to it that tells me, no, I shouldn't share it as my experience. And then when I'm giving an example, I always give myself an example, because I realize people got offended if I say, what if that was you? And then they'll feel that I am putting something on them that is untrue. So, which I've also realized that people say, oh, I'm always talking about myself. But the best person to give that example, because knowing that it's not me, the illustration works, because then it is giving the illustration as I meant to give it without offending anyone external to myself. But you know, people who want to be offended are always offended. So I figured that out now. So I keep the examples to myself going forward, because you can't be any more offended, because other than this moment right here. So that has happened. So I'm now in the church and whatever. Oh my goodness, we had the best people in that church. We have the Hansons, the family. Oh, they would try their best. We had Uncle Junior. He would try his best to get to us, to make us natural and normal children. They would try, and you could see them trying, sink their teeth, trying to get with love. And you could see the love of Christ in that journey, that they would really try. Also, we did not eat meat, so we were vegetarian. So it was like brainwashing. You couldn't eat anywhere else. And then it seemed like the pressure was mainly on me. My brother had no interest in going out to other people, hang out at other people's houses or not. But I like to socialize. I like to know what people would say. My dad would tell you, I'm not going to sleep over. I never slept over at anybody else except my uncle's house, which is my dad's little brother in Manchester. In Wigan is the actual location. If it's not there, he doesn't want to know. Or my dad's sister, Auntie Gitu. Or even then, my auntie would try and say, well, they're children. No, why don't you just celebrate Christmas? Okay, fine, don't celebrate, but they're off on the holidays, so why don't they just have dinner? So she would give us gifts on Christmas. It was so exciting, you know, having those glimpses of what could be. And then, even then, I knew I could not get married to an Adventist. I already knew. I was like, oh, hell no. I cannot live like this. This is captivity. This is oppression. I did not know what I needed to do or what I wanted to do with my life or where I wanted to be. But all I knew is that I did not want to be here. But don't get me twisted. I love the idea that there is a creator. I love the idea that there is God. I loved the idea, and still do, that there is a supreme being that loves me the way I am, who made me the way I am. That even there were times that my dad would snap and then we used corporal punishment. And when he would do this, it's based on his idea that, okay, she went to her friend V's house. She must be sleeping around. Honey, I didn't even care about boys. And to be honest, I think sometimes I'll go for 2 years, I don't date, because I really don't care. I really don't care. I actually like my own company. I like that I don't need to do anything for you. But there is something about me, I like to host. So if you were to come into my space or come into my home, I will cook for you. If you have dietary requirements, I would look after those dietary requirements. And I like to cook, I like to bake, and I make things I like. I like being in the kitchen. But the moment you tell me to go in the kitchen, honey, you better order. You better find it. You better find out. The moment it's a job, you better go and find it out. Where I got this idea of certitude and finding happiness in food was in the Henson family. Even there's this, and then one of the Henson sisters were married to the Morrison family. We call him Uncle Morrison. He's now grandpops, I think now, but Uncle Morrison. He would make our diet requirement for us to ensure that we did not miss out and we came to things. But yet there were some people who would use this so that we are not able to attend because our dietary requirements were not met. And for this reason, that's why I would make food. Be creative with the pasta, be creative with food, be creative with corn, so that we can carry our own dish to places. But when we know Uncle Morrison has invited us, just know that you don't need to worry about bringing your own dietary requirements, the one dish that you can actually eat without being consumed by other products of meat. That's when I learned something there. That's why I say God puts people in your life. I said that is something I will do. If I want you in my life, I will actively make effort to ensure that you feel welcome and wanted in my space. Whether your stay in my space is long or short, I learned from the Henson and the Morrison family that when you like someone, you are intentional about their presence in your space. I learned that from them. So from that family, and forever, I mean, gratitude. I'm not as close to them as my brother because I'm socially awkward. That's the truth. I am. And I'm aware of that. And yeah. So that's where, so if you were to come in contact with me, I know exactly who I am. I'm not confused about who I am. I know exactly who I am. And that's where I identify as Caribbean. Because if they don't like something that's happening, they will tell you in your face. It's not like, oh, you hear say, no. They'll be like, yep, this is what's happening and this is what is not happening. This is where you stand. And in an African household, I could never fit in, and I still don't fit in an African anything. In African anything, because I love that you're transparent about your expectation, and therefore people are aware of your boundaries, that they stepping over this will be disrespectful, to the point where, although we were extremist children, we felt loved being different. We felt safe in these particular spaces. And for that, I'm appreciative. And no matter what anybody says, these two families make a big difference. So in the Adventist church, so I'm learning now. I've gone to university. So my experience at university, my parents are coming every other time. They'll bring the flip chart so that we can go through the altar, the revelation, Daniel revelation. It's personally being drilled into me. So they come with a flip chart and so forth. And in university, that's when you're supposed to form your further relation, who you truly are. You find out who you truly are because you've left your core. So you are now finding who you are as an individual. So my parents were sure that I was planning to get lost or whatever it was, whether it was fear or it's control, I'm not sure. But they would do this every 2-3 weeks whenever they wanted, and they'll bring someone they've recruited in their faith and whatever else. So yeah, they'll come and they'll Bible rush. And then there was a situation that happened during that time. I had now moved from the campus. It was my second year. I'd moved from the campus. I was now in my own apartment still in Birmingham, by the way. And I had gone somewhere. And I think it was even a club. I went to the club. But because it was not in Birmingham, it was in Wolverhampton. So my then boyfriend decided that, no, we'll stay there and then I'll bring you in the morning. He bring me to my house in the morning. Oh my goodness, my parents decided, the spirit told them in themselves that they're coming to see me. They've come over to see me in Birmingham. And I'm not home. They call me. Oh, where are you? I said, I'm at home. Because you're supposed to be in Luton, love. What is it your business to know exactly where I am? I'm doing adulting. They said, but we're outside your house, you're not opening. I was like, oh, I can't open the door, blah, blah. So I'm not trying to jump into my house from the garden. Oh, God, this is embarrassing. And I'm like, looking back, it's a bit mad. Then they come, they're so upset that they came to see me and then I was not at home. But why should I be at home? Maybe I should have said I was at work. But that would have been a lie. I was at home, but it's not my home. And that happens. That's finished. My parents now thought I was fornicating. And then after that, I said, why not? Why am I not fornicating? I decided, let's fornicate. I was like, you're accusing me of something that I wasn't actually doing. So I thought, okay, might as well just get out the way, just do it. So I started fornicating after they accused me of fornicating. So they've disowned me now. Because they assumed I was fornicating before I was fornicating. And that's happened. So now I'm isolated. My siblings are not allowed to talk to me and whatever else. Then they send this family friend. And they've come to my house. And they're there. And my boyfriend's there because I'm going through a whole mental stuff. So now it's about 3 months. My parents are not talking to me. So he's come over. And they said, oh, they're coming. So I said, oh, why didn't you come? Because I don't even want... I don't trust Zimbabweans personally. I don't. That's the thing. I just don't trust them. There's always an angle. There's always an angle. Unless they meet me generally in person, like in a government society, on a building or something, then they're genuine. But anywhere that's personal, they just got an angle. There's always an agenda. So they've come over. I made fish because my partner wanted fish to be made and whatever. So I made food, and then we all ate. And then they go to my parents. Mind you, I've never lived with a man in my life. Well, I never lived with a man in my life. I'm 37. I've never cohabited with a man in my life. And I'm only going to cohabit with my husband, but I have not cohabited with a man in my life. So that's that. We have that conversation. So I'm thinking you're going to make it clear. There's nothing because I've not told you anything. They go and tell my parents that I'm leaving with this man. What do you mean I'm leaving with him when he lives in his own house? Oh no, they live together. What do you mean he lives with me? I'm the only person on the list. If you ask the landlord, even you can go and find him. Mr. Kelly, an Irishman from Birmingham. You can go and ask him if I lived with anyone in the household. I lived by myself. And could you believe? And I'm like, guy, why would you lie? You just said the facts. He was at the house when you came or when you told me you were coming. You should just said that. And that's exactly what you saw, and you just kept that as facts. You didn't need to create and make up things. But no, it wasn't good enough. You created a whole facade and then made up things. So now my parents think I'm leaving with a man. My mom leaves me a voicemail. Oh, which is scriptures, by the way. Yeah, thou shalt not. I was like, I'm not living with anyone though. Oh no, yeah, the spirit told me, because they don't want to say, oh, this person told us. Hey. And now I'm now going through this mental. I'm like, do you know how hard it is for someone who's been brainwashed, indoctrinated, and the idea that you are being separated from God's people, you're being separated. And then my siblings can't call me because I am now an outcast. I'm thrown out. So was a shift in my personality that my core family is now not my core family anymore. I shifted. And I don't think you can ever unshift that. Because now I knew what it felt like to be alone. And knowing that I don't need anyone was even dangerous. So I broke up with him because I felt like my family was important. The family that didn't want me, by the way, because I must have done this wrongful thing of fornicating, which I was not even planning to do, but then did, because that's what you said. You made decisions, extreme decisions, based on something that's untrue. The journey begins that I shifted. I was awake. That's why I say to people, don't let me wake up on certain situations, because you rather leave me sleeping. I then couldn't function at school, couldn't function at uni, couldn't function on placement. I was confused, to be honest. I lost my mind. Not physically or whatever. I lost my mind. I was like, so what do? In the church, I'm worshiping God, kneeling in the church. So I'm already isolated. I'm not in the core church where they knew who I was and navigate those things. I never stopped going to church. I was going even in the midweek prayers. I'm doing all of this stuff. And I'm going through this. And I was like, I'm going to burn in hell now. I'm a fornicator. Me and my fornication is going to catch me in hell. And mind you, it's not like I was fornicating every day because I'll be guilty. So it'd be that one time because I was making a point of fornicating that time because you said I was doing it. So I made it. So I might as well do it so I can ask for forgiveness officially, because I wasn't doing it. I wasn't even thinking of that. I was doing things outside of my social norm that society would not have permitted me prior to being in this situation. But they seemed the worst. Anyway, we're here now. Oh, it's so sad. But we're not going to cry. We're going to be okay. Yeah. I shifted. There was a shift. Went to prayers at the same time. But I knew one thing. This can't be it. But I needed to see my parents face to face. I needed to see them in person. So I knew they were now not going to church, since the church was lukewarm according to scriptures and the Adventist church first, and therefore we need to isolate so that we can be the remnant, of God's people, in that we're the pure of God's people. So we needed to do this again. So I then was reading scriptures. Remember, I'm reading in the mind of, I've already condemned myself. So I'm reading scriptures and realize that I'm condemned and justifying my parents' isolation based on lies, but because maybe they had foreseen my fornication and my moving in with this person. I've never moved in and I've never lived with this person in my life. You can feel free to come to point out that when I've lived with anybody, I've not lived with a man ever. And therefore this, that, and the other. Poor me. I now needed to find God, because boy, I tell you, boy, I am disgusted. I started fasting and praying. Became skin and bones, talking to the Almighty. I already in skin and bones at the time, but I started talking to the Almighty. I said, oh, this is vanity. Oh, this is not going to work. I had to talk, and I had to remove myself from places and became isolated. I remember I had a close friend of mine who was Winnie. She's now a doctor. She's a physician. At the time, we were very close, but because now I'm on this journey of purification, because I think I am this heathen that doesn't deserve an existence I'm on this journey, so now more isolating, very dangerous that. So I'm on this isolation journey, and I need to be more into Ellen G. White's doctrines. I need to be wearing the long skirts, the head covering, and so forth. I like my head covering. Don't worry, if you see me do that, don't get offended. Then I started getting into Islam. I started reading the Quran. I started reading the Quran, and I also had a Torah. I still do have a Torah, but I started reading the Quran because I believe that there is one God, and this one God is the Creator. And Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Catholicism, and Jehovah's Witness, and the Mormon Church, they are all part of the same faith, because there's only one creator. We can't have multiple creators. The existence of the God is one. The belief system is multiple belief systems of the same God. We can view the same picture, depending on perception. We can all see what we want to see at the time we're looking at it. So I still believe that we can all have the same God, but because we are looking at that God in different angles, we think it's other. It's not other. Just like I am a human being, there's only one race, the human race. But because we choose to see other in each other, we fail to see the humanity in each other. So for that same reason, it's the same with spirituality. So you can throw stones, go right away, write all you like. I stay put on what I'm saying, because therefore you will not have grounds for hate or dislike or distaste of anybody if you look at life the way I'm suggesting to you. So we're there. We're here with that. And oh boy, I tell you, boy, I begin the journey of my spiritual awakening. I'm reading the Quran, and the Quran is becoming more opening. And then I read the Bible. Moshe is Moses. And then you're like, and then you're talking to Islamic people, but you realize they don't read. They read certain contexts that keep them in line, but they're not reading the true Quran, because Quran is peace. But you don't see that. I was like, but then if I have the same agenda reading the scriptures, just like where I'm coming from, the same scriptures were putting me in captivity. You will hear me out probably in the next chapter. Chapter 3, you probably hear the rest of how I deduct my spiritual journey. But for this, just to conclude this segment per se, I began to look for God. Whilst I was looking, I missed the connection to my family, to my siblings, and so forth. I went home. I then lost my license by then, so I had to get on a coach and then go home. I've gone home. I get in there praying. Oh, I started crying. I started praying. I started crying. I started praying. And I think I sang, I surrender all. And then they didn't want to hear that the information they disowned me on was untrue. They justified that. But I just had, because I wanted my family back so bad. Obviously, the truth doesn't matter. They were justifying their decision, and so be it. So I let it go. And I said, I want my family. I want my siblings, and I want my family. And I'm going to be the best Seventh-day Adventist in the world has ever seen. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you in the next chapter. If you like, you can subscribe. If you can relate, please comment down below and let the story continue.
And I will give you all this love I feel.